She walked into Windsor like she still ruled it. But before Queen Camilla could even cross the gate, her badge turned red, her guards turned away, and the system she once commanded locked her out. Moments later, a royal guard exposed the hidden order that stripped her of power and handed everything to Princess Catherine. What happened next silenced the palace forever. Like the video, comment your thoughts and subscribe now. It began with a sound no one inside Windsor's Security Operations Center ever wanted to hear, the soft beep of denial. A red light flashed on the access monitor beside the north wing gate, and the Queen Consort's badge, one that had opened every door in the palace for years, now read, "Access revoked." The air in the corridor thickened instantly. Two guards shifted, uncertain, but the senior on duty did not move. Sergeant Holden Pierce, Coldstream Guard, 12 years in service, stood still as protocol demanded. He watched the scanner flicker again, then settle on red. No malfunction, no error. Just a silent statement from the palace itself. Her clearance was gone. Sergeant. "Open this door," Camilla ordered, her voice clipped. "Commanding." "Ma'am," Holden replied evenly, "your access has been suspended. Please remain here." Her eyes flashed, disbelief first, then something closer to anger. Suspended by whom? Holden did not answer immediately. He was trained to let silence carry more weight than words. The truth, however, was heavier than the steel doors between them. The revocation had come from within, not by royal decree, not through political channels, but through the Security Review Board, headed by Holden himself. Hours earlier, deep inside the basement command center, Holden had found something he could not ignore. 3 unauthorized access logs traced back to Camilla's digital credentials, used to enter the North Archive. A sealed section containing legacy documents of Queen Elizabeth II. At first, he thought it was a glitch, a sync issue with the badge system. But the timestamps didn't lie. The logs showed late-night movement, multiple entries, and no secondary verification signature. Every royal ID carried a microseal embedded in its chip, impossible to replicate without insider help. He'd seen forgeries before, subtle ones, usually the work of rogue staff trying to bypass storage zones. But this was calculated, precise. Someone had cloned the consort's card. And if that card had been used, it meant someone was trying to access the most private files in the monarchy's archive, the succession ledger, and the late Queen's sealed letters of intent. Holden's duty was clear. Report, lock, verify, and revoke within minutes. He initiated a quiet lockdown, not of the palace, but of one person. Camilla's credentials were stripped from the system, her personal guards reassigned to standby. The security board countersigned the order automatically, protocol dictating that any compromised ID must be contained before confirmation. But the containment came faster than anyone expected. Before the review could even begin, the Queen Consort herself arrived at Windsor, unannounced, flanked by aides who whispered urgently into their radios. Holden had watched her approach on the monitors, the tension in her stride, the tightness in her jaw. She was not coming for ceremony. She was coming for control. Now, face to face in the North Wing corridor, she realized it was gone. "This is a mistake," she said sharply, stepping closer. "Reset the system." "You have no authority to keep me out," Holden held her gaze. "With respect, ma'am, the authority comes from the system itself. A breach was detected under your credentials. Until the investigation is complete, you are restricted from entry." Her voice dropped, icy. "Do you know who you're speaking to?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. That's why I cannot move." Behind her, one of her aides tried to interject, but the other guards stepped forward subtly, not to confront her, but to separate her from the scanner. The moment felt frozen, suspended between order and outrage. Finally, she spoke again, softer this time. "And who issued this? Reassignment?" Holden turned the terminal screen toward her. A single line glowed on the monitor. "Security detail transferred. Princess Catherine, primary royal protectee." Camilla's eyes widened. For a moment, even the rain outside seemed to still. She read the line again, then looked back at him. "You think she had something to do with this?" Holden's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, I think protocol has something to do with this." The silence that followed was unlike any other. The silence of power losing its footing. Camilla exhaled slowly, the edge in her tone fading into something more dangerous. Calm. Then you've just chosen your loyalty, Sergeant. Holden stood unmoved. My loyalty is to the Crown, ma'am, not the Crown's shadow. For a second, the faint hum of the scanners was all that existed between them. Then, without another word, Camilla turned sharply and walked away, her aides trailing behind like broken reflections. Holden stayed until she disappeared down the corridor. Only then did he allow himself to breathe. He reached for the intercom. "Command," he said. "Confirm transfer to Princess Catherine's protection unit. All assets under Consort classification to be rerouted through Clearance Alpha." The reply came back steady. "Confirmed. Transfer complete." Holden closed the line and stared at the blinking red light that had started it all. He'd followed the code to the letter. But deep inside he knew this wasn't over. Because revoking access was easy, stopping power from finding another door was not. By dawn, the rain had stopped, but Windsor felt heavier than ever. A strange quiet stretched across the courtyards, the kind that comes when the walls themselves are waiting for someone to speak first. Inside the Royal Security Operations Center, Sergeant Holden Pierce stood before the encrypted terminal, eyes locked on a message marked Priority 1. Internal transfer authorization. The sender line was empty. No signature, no timestamp. Just one sentence typed in the system's neutral font. Effective immediately. Security detail reassigned to Princess Catherine by order of the Crown. Holden's pulse slowed, but his thoughts raced. Every order in the Windsor network carried a chain of custody. Date, origin, approval. This one carried nothing. It had appeared as if the system itself had spoken. He checked the metadata manually, line by line. The digital footprint led nowhere. No terminal ID, no network tag. And yet, every confirmation flag matched, meaning it was valid by royal code. He knew what that meant. Someone above his clearance had acted quietly, deliberately and with the Crown's authority. "Sergeant?" a voice called softly. It was Officer Leanne Evers, his deputy, a sharp-eyed woman who'd served alongside him since Sandringham. "You've been standing there 10 minutes. Is it confirmed?" He nodded once. "Transfer is official. Catherine's security detail now has command clearance." "The consort's profile has been locked," Leanne hesitated. "Then it's true. The Queen's access really is gone?" Holden didn't answer. Instead, he turned his gaze to the glass wall overlooking the palace courtyard. In the distance, the Princess of Wales walked slowly between the gardens, her posture calm, deliberate, unaware that the kingdom had just shifted beneath her feet. "She's about to find out," he said quietly. By mid-morning, the palace corridors buzzed with whispers. Staff avoided eye contact, their steps quick, voices low. Everyone knew something had changed, though no one knew exactly what. At the far end of the East Wing, Princess Catherine was reviewing event briefings with her private secretary when the door opened. Holden entered, flanked by 2 uniformed officers, the quiet authority of the guard preceding him like a ripple. "Your Royal Highness," he said with a bow. "Apologies for the interruption." Catherine looked up from her notes, smiling faintly. "Sergeant Pierce, I wasn't expecting security updates until Friday." He stepped forward and placed a sealed envelope on her desk. The red wax bore the palace insignia, the unmistakable crest of the Security Council. "This arrived early this morning, ma'am," he said. "Effective immediately, your personal protection unit has been expanded. All personnel previously assigned to Her Majesty the Queen Consort have been transferred to your service." Catherine's expression remained composed, but her tone softened. "Transferred? By whose request?" Holden paused. "The order cites Crown authority, ma'am. No named originator." Her fingers lingered on the seal. "No name? That's unusual." "Yes, ma'am," Holden replied, voice even. "In my 12 years, I've never seen one unsigned." She studied him for a long moment, then broke the seal. Inside lay a single document, the official clearance revision. The words were simple, almost sterile. "Security reassignment. Royal Consort detail reassigned to the Princess of Wales. Effective immediately. Clearance Alpha, standing indefinite. Catherine looked up again, calm but sharp now. This isn't a mistake, is it? No, ma'am, Holden said. The system confirmed it twice. And Queen Camilla? Holden exhaled slowly. Her clearance was revoked last night. Attempted access to restricted areas triggered a full suspension. The silence that followed was soft but powerful. Catherine's eyes lowered slightly, her mind already moving through the implications. She'll take this personally, she said finally. Yes, ma'am, Holden agreed. She already has. Catherine stood, her composure unbroken, though the sunlight behind her flickered across her face like fractured glass. Tell me something, Sergeant. Do you believe this was done to protect me or to punish her? Holden hesitated. That depends who you think the Crown is protecting, ma'am. Her gaze met his, steady, unreadable. And who do you think that is? He looked toward the window, where the flag above Windsor fluttered against a pale sky. The legacy, ma'am. Always the legacy. Hours later, Holden returned to the command floor. His inbox overflowed with encrypted messages from press liaisons, ministers, and private secretaries demanding explanations. Every one of them asked the same thing. Who authorized the transfer? He typed the same answer each time. Under review. Security integrity preserved. But as the hours passed, he noticed something stranger. The palace network itself had begun to shift. Old access lists disappeared. A new chain of command appeared on the control dashboard. Primary Sovereign Liaison, Sergeant Holden Pierce. Secondary Liaison, Princess Catherine, Security Oversight. Holden stared at it, the realization cutting through him. Someone had elevated his clearance, without request, without announcement. He picked up the secure line and called the one person who might know. Central Command, came the voice on the other end. This is Pierce, he said. Who elevated my clearance to liaison? A pause, then a quiet reply. It was automated. The system said the new chain was pre-coded under the late Queen's security directive. Holden froze. Under whose directive? The late Queen Elizabeth II, sir. Dated 6 months before her passing. Contingency code, Crown continuity. Holden's grip tightened on the receiver. The late Queen, meticulous, deliberate, had prepared for this. The reassignment, the silent transfer, even the lockdown. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't rebellion. It was legacy protocol. A plan set in motion long before either Camilla or Catherine had stepped into the storm. He placed the receiver down slowly, his reflection mirrored in the dark screen. The message was clear. The Crown protects itself, even from those who wear it. As the clock struck noon, Holden's phone vibrated once more. A new encrypted alert flashed across the screen. Unscheduled vehicle approaching North Gate. ID signature, QC Alpha, Queen Camilla. Holden's eyes narrowed. She's coming back. And this time, she would not be asking questions. By the time the black motorcade reached Windsor's north gates, the morning sun had broken through the fog. But the light that fell across the courtyard was not soft. It was sharp, revealing every reflection, every motion. At exactly 10:42 a.m., the lead Range Rover rolled to a stop, and Queen Camilla stepped out, flanked by aides whose faces were pale with unease. The guards at the gate straightened immediately. Not a single one saluted, she noticed. The silence that followed was the kind that did not ask for respect. It demanded explanation. "Open the gate," she said. Her voice carried the weight of command. The senior guard, uniform immaculate, boots polished to mirror black, bowed slightly. "Ma'am, I have orders. Entry restricted until further authorization." Her eyes narrowed. "Whose authorization?" Before he could answer, another figure stepped forward from the archway. The red tunic, the measured stride, Sergeant Holden Pierce. His presence alone was enough to silence the courtyard. "Mine, ma'am," he said. The tension between them was thick enough to taste. Camilla's expression didn't change, but her tone dropped low, almost soft. "You think you can revoke the Queen Consort's clearance without royal approval?" Holden's reply was steady, trained. "It was not my decision, ma'am. It was the system's." "Systems don't make decisions, Sergeant," she said coldly. "People do. And I intend to know which one of yours did this." He met her gaze, unflinching. "The order came through verified royal channels. No signature, no override. Crown authority encoded in full." "Then someone has used my husband's seal," she said sharply, "and I'll see that they answer for it." Holden didn't respond. He only stepped aside slightly, revealing what she hadn't yet noticed: her personal security unit, the same men who had guarded her for years, now standing several meters behind Princess Catherine on the far side of the courtyard. Camilla turned slowly. Catherine stood calm, poised, her hands clasped before her. She wore no crown, no sash, no symbol of hierarchy, yet the sunlight fell on her like it had chosen its side. "Good morning, Your Majesty," Catherine said softly. "You've come early." Camilla's lips curved into something between a smile and a warning. "It seems I wasn't the only one." The guards between them shifted uneasily. For the first time in decades, the palace courtyard hosted two queens, one by title, one by heart, and only one would walk through the gate with authority intact. Holden stepped forward slightly, his voice formal. "Your Royal Highness, per security reallocation protocol, this area is currently under the Princess of Wales's jurisdiction." Camilla's eyes cut to him. "Jurisdiction? This is my palace." Catherine's tone remained serene. "Our palace, ma'am. And that's exactly why the transfer happened. Security reviews found discrepancies, unauthorized access, multiple scans under your identification." Camilla's face hardened. "Are you accusing me of breaking into my own home?" "No," Catherine said gently. "But someone used your name to do it." For a moment, the Queen Consort's composure faltered. Her hand brushed the silver clasp of her coat, then steadied. "You think this is about a system error? It isn't. It's about power." Catherine met her gaze. "Then you must know. Power doesn't disappear. It just changes hands." Holden's radio crackled softly. "Sergeant Pierce, confirmation. From Control, the late Queen's Crown Continuity Directive has been reactivated. Primary Security Authority, Princess of Wales." The words froze the courtyard. Camilla heard them. Everyone did. Her eyes flicked toward Holden, then back to Catherine. "Continuity protocol?" she repeated, the words slow, calculated. "That hasn't been used since—" She trailed off, remembering. "Since before her passing." Catherine nodded once. "And it was written in her own hand." Camilla inhaled sharply, as if struck by invisible wind. "She trusted you with it." Catherine didn't answer. "Of course she did," Camilla murmured bitterly. "Her perfect successor." The tension cracked then, sharp and silent, like glass breaking behind velvet. "Sergeant," Camilla said suddenly, turning back to Holden, "escort me to my office." Holden stood firm. "Ma'am, access remains restricted until the review is complete." Her tone sharpened. "You forget yourself." He bowed slightly. "I remember my oath." "Which is to me," she hissed. His eyes didn't move. "No, ma'am. It's to the crown, and the one it now recognizes." Camilla went still. For a heartbeat, even the guards seemed to forget to breathe. She turned back toward Catherine, her voice trembling not from fear, but from fury barely contained. "You've taken everything, haven't you?" Catherine shook her head. "I didn't take anything, ma'am. The late Queen left it in motion long before any of us arrived." Camilla stared at her for a long time, eyes glinting not with defeat but with calculation. Then she smiled. That same quiet smile she'd used for years when cornered by questions she didn't intend to answer. "Then I suppose," she said softly, "I'll just have to find what else she left behind." She turned and walked toward her waiting car. The guards opened the gate automatically, but the gesture felt hollow, ceremonial, not obedient. Holden watched her leave, the black vehicle rolling down the drive until it vanished beyond the arches. Only when it was gone did Catherine speak. "She won't let this rest." "I know," Holden replied, "but whatever she's looking for, she won't find it." Catherine glanced at him. "You sound certain." He looked back toward the sealed wing, where the late Queen's archives waited untouched behind reinforced glass. "Because she's looking in the wrong place." As the courtyard emptied, Holden's radio lit up again, an encrypted alert direct from the internal archive. "Unauthorized motion detected. Royal Archive subsection 3B. Biometric match. Unknown. Clearance mask active." Holden froze. "Someone's already inside," he whispered. Catherine's eyes widened. "But how?" Everything was locked. Holden's voice was calm, but his hands clenched. "Not everything, ma'am. There's one override the late Queen never erased, her personal key." And deep within the palace, in the quiet shadow of the archive, a single red light blinked on. A hidden door slid open, and someone, unseen, deliberate, stepped inside. The alarm was silent, no sirens, no flashing lights. Just a steady red pulse glowing in the darkness of Windsor's underbelly, deep within the Royal Archive subsection 3B, where the air felt older than the palace itself. Sergeant Holden Pierce moved swiftly down the stone corridor, his boots echoing off the walls like a heartbeat. He was alone. No radio chatter, no backup. The fewer who knew what he was doing, the safer it was. He reached the reinforced door, titanium lattice, double-layer encryption. The access panel still flickered faintly. Someone had bypassed the system's biometric failsafe. Holden removed his glove and pressed his palm against the scanner. "Pierce, Holden, Clearance Alpha, Authentication Override," he whispered. The panel hummed softly, then displayed a warning he had never seen before. Restricted access, Sovereign Continuity Protocol. Voice authentication required. Elizabeth Regina. Holden's chest tightened. Only one person could open this vault, and she had been gone for nearly 2 years. He stared at the words, the name glowing faintly in the dark. Voice authentication, he repeated quietly, almost to himself. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small silver drive, one he'd recovered months earlier from the Crown Intelligence Division, labeled in delicate handwriting, Legacy Archive, Balmoral Session. He inserted it into the auxiliary port. A soft voice filled the air, familiar and haunting. Elizabeth Regina. Sovereign voice confirmation. Protocol continuation authorized. The door clicked open. Inside, the vault was nothing like the myths. No rows of glittering treasures, no relics of monarchy, just shelves lined with sealed boxes, numbered in precise order, each tagged with dates and initials. The air was cold and still, carrying the faint scent of paper, cedar, and thyme. He scanned the room quickly, then froze. A single box sat open on the central table. Its seal had been sliced clean, too clean. Whoever had entered knew exactly what they were looking for. He approached, slowly. The label read, Private Continuity, Directive 2, Reassignment Clause. Inside, the documents were gone. Only a single note remained, written in the late Queen's elegant hand. If this file has been opened, continuity has failed. Trust the code, not the crown. Holden's pulse surged. Trust the code, not the crown, he whispered. It was a phrase known only to senior security, a phrase the late Queen used during wartime simulations, meaning the system is compromised. Follow the algorithm, not the orders. It meant the monarchy's internal network, the one that had reassigned Camilla's detail, wasn't malfunctioning. It was responding to a buried directive. He turned toward the far wall. A faint light flickered behind a shelf. Moving it aside, he found a narrow maintenance panel left slightly ajar. Inside, a small data port glowed faintly blue, connected to an encrypted terminal hidden behind the structure. Someone had been using it, recently. He activated the display. The last access timestamp blinked. 03:27 a.m., hours before Camilla had arrived at Windsor. Holden entered his security code and opened the last executed command. The file name appeared in faded text. Elizabeth II, Continuity Chain, Final Transfer Memo. He clicked it open. Lines of code filled the screen, then resolved into text. In the event of succession conflict, or evidence of compromise within the consort's office, all defensive and ceremonial privileges are to transfer immediately to the Princess of Wales. The Security Council is to act without announcement. Authority confirmed by Elizabeth R., January 2021. Holden exhaled sharply. So it's real, he murmured. She planned all of this, but before he could copy the file, a faint click echoed from behind him. The unmistakable metallic whisper of a gun's safety being released. Step away from the terminal. Sergeant, a voice said, cold and composed. He turned slowly. Lord Alistair Greaves, the consort's chief advisor, stood in the doorway. His grey suit was immaculate, his expression unreadable. Working late, are we? Greaves asked. Following the alarm, Holden replied evenly. This area is restricted. Yes, Greaves said with a faint smile, which is why I was curious who else had the clearance. He stepped closer, eyes flicking toward the open box. You found it. Found what? Holden asked. The file the Queen left behind. The one meant to erase Camilla's influence before she even wore the crown. Holden's jaw tightened. Erase its protocol. She protected the monarchy, Greaves tilted his head. By pitting wife against heir. By using her ghost to control the living. He took another step forward. You don't understand, Sergeant. This continuity chain wasn't meant to preserve the monarchy. It was designed to end it the moment it fractured. Holden frowned. End it? Greaves nodded. A self-correcting monarchy. If corruption reached the throne, the system would quietly dismantle the power structure. Cancel clearances. Reassign loyalties. Dissolve control until nothing remained but a symbol. No family, no politics. Just silence. Holden's stomach turned cold. You're lying, Greaves smiled faintly. Am I? He gestured toward the glowing screen. You saw the words. Trust the code, not the crown. Tell me, Sergeant, whose orders have you really been following? Holden's hand hovered near his sidearm. I follow the Queen's. Which one? Greaves asked softly. The silence that followed was sharper than any shout. At that moment, the intercom crackled faintly. Catherine's voice came through, calm but urgent. Sergeant Pierce, report. The consort has entered the lower wing. She's heading toward the archive. Greaves' smile deepened. Perfect timing. Holden took a step back. You can't stop this. Greaves' eyes darkened. I'm not here to stop it. I'm here to finish what she started. Without another word, he lunged toward the terminal, slamming his hand onto the command console. The screen flashed red. File deleted. System lockdown initiated. Holden grabbed his arm, but Greaves shoved him back. The device sparking as the data core fried from overload. The vault lights flickered. Holden lunged again, knocking Greaves to the floor. The two struggled amid the shelves, papers scattering like snow. The security sirens blared, faint, distant, rising from the walls. Finally, Greaves twisted free and bolted for the exit. You'll never find it again, he shouted as he disappeared into the corridor. She hid the truth where no system can reach. Holden rose, panting, eyes darting to the half-burned screen. In the midst of the static, one final line blinked in faint gold text. Auto-restored from the corrupted log. Final continuity directive. Physical copy stored under Windsor West Chapel Reliquary 7. Holden stared at it. Under the chapel, he whispered, and somewhere above, the Queen Consort's footsteps echoed closer. Windsor's chapel bell struck noon, its deep tones rolling through the stone corridors like thunder inside a cathedral. The palace above moved in ceremony, staff resetting appointments, courtiers whispering damage control. But far below, under the chapel's marble floors, a single man was running. Sergeant Holden Pierce moved through the narrow subterranean passage with a flashlight and a pistol drawn. Dust clung to the edges of his boots. The faint smell of candle wax drifted down from the chapel above. Every few steps, he could hear muffled footsteps echoing behind him. Someone else was coming, but he didn't have time to wait. He reached the end of the corridor. The wall looked solid, smooth, untouched for decades. But the scanner in his hand flickered green. The sensors embedded in the stone glowed faintly, revealing the outline of a hidden doorway. The inscription etched above it read, "For continuity, not conquest." It was the late Queen's personal motto, the same phrase engraved inside her coronation crown. Holden exhaled and pressed his palm against the carved insignia. The wall clicked, rotated slightly, and slid open with a low mechanical sigh. Inside, the reliquary chamber was small, no more than 20 feet wide. Candles had been burned here recently. The scent of wax and smoke was fresh. The space was lined with stone alcoves, each containing sealed boxes engraved with initials and dates. But one stood apart from the rest, Reliquary 7. A single oak chest sat in the center, the royal crest inlaid in silver. On top of it lay a folded parchment marked E2 Private Continuity. Holden approached slowly. His heartbeat was steady now, soldier steady. He reached out, brushing his fingertips across the seal. It was intact, unbroken. Then a voice echoed from the entrance. "Step away, Sergeant." He turned. Queen Camilla stood in the doorway, framed by the faint candlelight. Behind her, Lord Alistair Greaves appeared, his suit streaked with dust from the archives, his expression hard and tired. Holden raised his weapon. "This chamber is sealed under sovereign protocol." Camilla smiled faintly. "And I am the sovereign consort." "Open it." "No, ma'am," Holden said calmly. "This directive belongs to the late Queen alone. Not even the King can override it without proper succession confirmation." Greaves stepped forward. "You think this paper protects her legacy? You have no idea what's inside that chest. It isn't loyalty, it's destruction. She built a system designed to dismantle the monarchy from within." Holden didn't move. "If that were true, you wouldn't be trying so hard to destroy it." Camilla's eyes flicked toward Greaves, then back to Holden. "You've been lied to, Sergeant. Whatever's in there, it isn't protection. It's a weapon against every one of us." Holden lowered his pistol slightly, but his tone stayed firm. "Then you should be the last person to touch it." Camilla took a slow step forward, the heels of her shoes clicking against the stone. "You think this place gives you authority? You're a soldier, not a priest. That chest holds words. And words can be rewritten." Holden's expression didn't change. "Words written by the only person who understood the cost of wearing the crown." For the first time, something flickered across Camilla's face. Hesitation. Holden took a deep breath and broke the wax seal. The parchment inside unfolded with a sound like time itself exhaling. His flashlight caught the elegant handwriting that every British schoolchild recognized instantly. Elizabeth R. He read aloud. "Should the unity of crown and consort ever fracture, the command of heritage and the protection of legacy shall transfer to the one who does not seek it. The crown must rest with humility, not hunger. To ensure this, all operational and ceremonial authority shall pass to the Princess of Wales. In full succession continuity." The words hung in the air. Impossible to mistake. Camilla stepped back slightly, the candlelight trembling against the walls. "She planned this." Greaves spoke, his voice breaking through the silence. "She planned to replace you before you ever wore the crown." Camilla's breathing grew sharp. "She never trusted me." Holden folded the parchment carefully. "She trusted the system, ma'am, and the system trusted me to guard it." For a moment, no one moved. Then Camilla straightened her shoulders. Her voice steadied. "If this letter is revealed, the monarchy collapses under accusation. I will not let that happen." Greaves nodded, stepping closer. "We destroy it. Now." Holden's voice cut through the air. "You destroy this, and you destroy the Queen's last will. The monarchy survives because it has memory, not because it hides it." Greaves lunged forward, but Holden was faster. The two collided, the parchment tumbling to the floor. Greaves struck Holden's shoulder, shoving him into the wall. Camilla cried out, but neither man stopped. The struggle was silent, brutal, efficient. Training versus desperation. Holden caught Greaves's arm, twisted, and slammed him back. The older man gasped, his wrists snapping beneath the pressure. He dropped. Camilla's eyes filled with shock, not for Greaves's pain, but for the guard who had just defied a queen. Holden picked up the letter from the ground, brushing off the dust. "This stays intact," he said quietly. "No one touches it but the king." Camilla stared at him for a long moment, then exhaled slowly. "You have no idea what you've just done." "Maybe not," Holden said, stepping past her toward the door. "But I know who I've done it for." As he disappeared into the corridor, Camilla looked down at Greaves. "He'll bring it to Charles." Greaves' voice was hoarse. "Then the king will know she never trusted him either." Camilla's lips curved into something faint and dark. "Good. Let him read the letter that buries his faith." She turned toward the chapel ceiling. If Elizabeth wanted to test loyalty, she's about to learn what happens when it breaks. Upstairs, sunlight poured through stained glass windows, scattering across the stone floor in patches of blue and gold. Holden emerged from the stairwell, the sealed letter clutched against his chest. Waiting near the altar was Princess Catherine, her expression steady, her presence calm amid chaos. He handed her the letter without a word. She unfolded it, read quickly, then met his eyes. "It's worse than we thought." "What will you do?" he asked. She closed the parchment, her voice quiet but resolute. "Show him the truth, even if it breaks him." Holden nodded once. "Then the Queen's last command is fulfilled." Catherine looked toward the throne chamber. "Not yet, Sergeant. The last command is still to come." The afternoon light in Windsor had changed color. It wasn't golden anymore. It was cold, almost silver, cutting through the great hall like a blade through mist. The storm that had lingered over the castle for days had finally cleared, but inside the royal walls, another was just beginning. At the far end of the throne room, King Charles III stood by the window, his hands clasped behind his back, staring toward the distant lawns where the world waited for his silence to speak. He had not eaten, not rested. The message from the lower archives had reached him hours ago, but only now did he allow himself to face what it meant. The door opened softly. Princess Catherine entered with Sergeant Holden Pierce at her side. She held a sealed parchment in her hands, the Queen's handwriting faint but unmistakable. "Your Majesty," Catherine said quietly, "this is the late Queen's continuity directive. We verified the seal. It is authentic." Charles turned slowly, his face shadowed by exhaustion. "And what does it say?" Catherine hesitated. "It says the monarchy should be led not by blood or claim, but by restraint, by the one who does not seek it." Charles's gaze sharpened. "You mean it names you?" Catherine's eyes flickered. "It names the principle, not the person, but it gives me authority over the consort's ceremonial and security jurisdiction." The words hung in the air like a quiet thunderclap. Holden stepped forward and set the letter on the polished oak desk. The seal glowed faintly in the filtered light. Charles reached for it, his fingers trembling slightly. He read the letter once, then twice. Every line struck like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him anymore. Finally, he looked up. "She wrote this to protect the crown, not me." Catherine nodded. And she knew one day, someone inside the palace might use that crown for something else. Charles's voice grew softer. "Camilla." "She accessed the archives using cloned credentials," Holden said firmly. "We confirmed it this morning. The breach wasn't random. It was targeted." Charles turned away from them, staring at the portrait of his mother that hung above the fireplace. The one painted during her final year, eyes bright, half smiling as if she still knew something the world didn't. "She warned me," he whispered. "She said power never vanishes. It hides in courtesy until someone stops bowing." The sound of the chamber door opening broke the silence. Queen Camilla entered. No announcement, no escort, just presence. She wore black silk, understated but commanding. In her hand, she held a thin silver envelope. "So it's true," she said softly. "You found it." Charles didn't turn. "You've been busy rewriting history, haven't you?" Camilla's tone was calm, measured. "I've been protecting what's left of it. That letter, her words, will destroy everything we built." Catherine's voice was gentle but unwavering. "No, ma'am. It will repair what was already breaking." Camilla's gaze shifted to Holden. You're the one who started this. The loyal soldier who mistakes obedience for virtue." Holden didn't flinch. "I serve the truth, ma'am, not the illusion of it." Camilla took a step closer, her voice lower now, sharper. "You think she wanted this?" Elizabeth ruled through secrecy, not transparency. Her control was absolute. "You're defending the ghost of a woman who never let anyone breathe without her blessing." Charles turned at last, his voice steady but grave. "That ghost gave us unity, Camilla. Without her, we're nothing but names on a page." Camilla's eyes glistened. "And you think this letter will bring unity? It will turn the monarchy into a memory." Charles studied her in silence. Then he unfolded the parchment once more and began to read aloud. "If division rises from within, the throne must be held by grace, not by grasping hands. Let not the crown rest on those who reach for it. Let it choose the one who endures it in silence." He looked up. "You reached, Camilla. Catherine endured." Camilla's composure cracked, not into tears, but into something more dangerous: disbelief. "You can't mean to—" Charles raised his hand gently. "This isn't my choice. It was hers." For the first time, Camilla's voice trembled. "So what am I now?" Charles looked at her with quiet sorrow. "A consort, as you were meant to be, but no longer the voice of the palace." She stared at him for a long, hollow moment, then whispered, "You're choosing her." "I'm choosing stability," Charles said softly. "And for once I'm choosing to listen." She turned away, her heels echoing across the marble floor as she walked toward the door. But just before leaving, she paused. "You'll regret this, Charles," she said quietly. "Because when history remembers your reign, it won't remember who wore the crown, only who took it away." The door closed behind her. The silence that followed was immense. Catherine exhaled slowly, her voice almost a whisper. "It's done." Charles nodded, folding the letter and placing it in the drawer beneath the royal seal. "For now." He turned to Holden. "You've done more than your duty, Sergeant. You've preserved something most of us forgot how to serve." Holden bowed slightly. "The truth, Your Majesty." "The legacy," Charles replied quietly. "And the courage to carry it." Later that evening, as the palace lights dimmed, Holden stood outside the chapel. Rain began to fall again, gentle this time, washing the cobblestones clean. He looked up toward the stained glass windows, where light from inside flickered faintly through the storm. Princess Catherine stepped beside him, her umbrella in hand. "You know she'll try again," she said softly. Holden nodded. "That's what power does. It always circles back." Catherine smiled faintly. "Then what will you do?" He looked toward the chapel doors. "What I've always done, ma'am. Stand still until the storm forgets how to roar." Catherine watched him a moment longer, then turned back toward the hall, her voice soft as the rain. "You've given the monarchy its guard again, not of walls, but of conscience." Holden gave a small nod. "Then my duty's done." As she disappeared into the distance, Holden remained under the falling rain, the faint echo of Elizabeth's words still in his mind. "Trust the code, not the crown." He whispered into the quiet, "I trust both, as long as someone remembers why they exist." The chapel bell rang once more, deep and resonant, as the rain swallowed the sound. And in that moment, beneath centuries of stone and history, the guard stood unmoving, not as a soldier, not as a servant, but as the last line between power and purpose. He defied power, protected truth, and changed the monarchy forever. If you believe loyalty still means something, hit like, comment, and subscribe for more royal sagas of courage, redemption, and legacy.